Start the recording. Hello, good morning from Bogota, Colombia. Good afternoon from Europe, I guess, or good night maybe in other parts of the world. My name is Jimena Perry. I am the project manager of the Explorers of the International Federation for Public History. And today we have with us Marco Demantowski, I hope I'm saying it right, who will talk to us about the situation of public history in German-speaking universities. He will make some observations and some remarks, and he will be in conversation with Aiko Hillen and with me. I would like to ask the audience to have their mics off while Marco does his presentation, but any comments or anything, you can use the chat, and I will use and I can read him your questions, and at the end, you can just open your mic and jump in the conversation. So I'm going to introduce our presenters today. Marco Demantowski holds the chair for public history at the Faculty Center for Transdisciplinary Historical and Cultural Studies at the University of Vienna. Previously, he was full professor for modern history and history education in Basel. Prior to this, he was assistant professor for history education in Bochum, and interim professor in Jena and Siegen, research assistant at the universities of Leipzig, Dortmund, and Münster from 1998 to 2007. Aiko Hillen completed his bachelor's degree in philosophy and history in Cologne in 2018, and he's currently finishing his master's degree in public history also in Cologne. Aiko works as research assistant at the chair of modern and contemporary history. He is also research assistant in a project of war crimes during the German occupation of Italy. His research interests are the Holocaust in Eastern Europe. Marco, you have the floor, and then we will go with Aiko, and then I will ask some questions, and then we'll open for the public. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Jimena, for the introduction. So I think we start with just two questions to give some broader view on the landscape of public history in Germany. So could you probably show us where are all the public history studies located in Germany? And probably you can tell us afterwards a little bit about the schedules and the specific orientation of these studies.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jimena, for inviting me. I'm really happy to be allowed to speak to you today. And thank you, Aiko, for your kind welcome. I'd like to start with some preliminary remarks before I would turn to your question, Aiko. First thing I would like to tell you all is a kind of a disclaimer, you know. So the field I would like to speak about you today is quite a diverse field. It has a lot of players and has a lot of projects and initiatives and important institutions. So if I commit any mistake today, if I forget something or someone, please be kind to me. It's only because of my age, you know, that happens. So this is my first disclaimer. The second preliminary remark I would like to make is a distinction, an important distinction, because when we speak about public history, a basic problem always seems to be, to me, is the, let's say, the mixture of different levels of public history. So on the one hand, we have public history discourse. Second hand, we have public history as a field of practice outside universities. And the third level, the third aspect is public history as academic profession. So if we speak about public history as a discourse, we would have to start so if we would like to speak about that, easily possible, yeah, we would have to start in the middle of the 19th century with such famous German-speaking scholars as Johann Gustav Droysen or Friedrich Nietzsche. But if you look really hard, you see that that isn't the start, it isn't the beginning of public history discourse. It starts earlier. We have in the period of Enlightenment, the period in which history as an academic field was founded and established at German-speaking universities, we have a start of this kind of thinking about usages and instrumentalizations of historical knowledge and historical practice. A famous name in this context is, of course, August Ludwig Schlözer. But we can go ahead in the past. We can start with Jean Bodin in the Renaissance era. We could also start with Cicero and Quintilian in the ancient Roman period. All these scholars have thought about public history and have created a public history discourse avant la lettre. It means before the people has known that it is public history, we are speaking about it. That is not my topic today. And let me tell you a last thing regarding this problem of public history discourse. In German-speaking countries, such as Western Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and also East Germany, former known as German Democratic Republic, the discourse started in the early 60s. And it was driven by the Cold War. Because within the Cold War, a need for propaganda and for instrumentalization of historical images has grown up. It became more and more important, not least because of the fact that historical images and historical narrations were the foundation of the Marxism-Leninism of the Eastern Bloc. So if you look to East Germany, the first explicit discourses and research about public history has started not by accident after the erection of the Berlin Wall. And this was taken up by West German scientists not before the early 70s. And Schurken, Professor Schurken was the first in 1968. I think he began to read about this from East Germany and to start the discussion in West Germany. And then a last date is important. This is 1979 with the TV production of the Holocaust sequel. And from this very moment, we have visited and we have attended the so-called memory boom also in Germany. And this was also the start of the fact that colleagues from ancient not from ancient times, but from the science of ancient times and of medieval times and of early modern times, so started to public history and created a lot of conceptualizations of this field. Always public history avant la lettre, public. So B, what I don't want to speak about today too is public history as a field of practice. I appreciate very much what all our colleagues do at newspapers, journals, at TV stations, radio stations, and so on. these are really important areas of public history. These are the, let's say, the most important areas of public history, because here starts the real disseminations of historical knowledge into societies. But it's not my topic today. So my only topic today is Field 3. This is public history as an academic discipline. And let's make it more clear, public history as a profession, to name all its aspects, which are sometimes disgusting and sad and making you doubt about everything. Public history as a university discipline is my topic today. So these were my two short preliminary remarks. And as you were asking, Eiko, I would like to start with an overview now of, we start with the university situation. I transmit my screen. If it would work. Just a second. It's unfortunately a new notebook I'm using. That's why I have to authorize.
If you want, you can also send it to me and I can screen it and I can share my screen if that's easier.
Okay, we do it this way. Sorry for this problem. I sent it to you. I sent it on the chat, so everybody has it, and you could open it, Jimena. Yeah, it's okay.
Let me see.
Just a second.
You send it in the chat?
I try. Try out. Just a second. That's a mistake. I beg your pardon. So.
Okay, I got it. Let me download it. Let me download it and open it. Give me a second, please. Sometimes I'm also a little. Okay, is everybody seeing the screen?
Now a kind of muscle rife filling the gap. Okay, now we are here.
Okay,
if you could
great.
go to chart 2, Jimena, it would be great. Thank you. Could you open the presentation mode?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So, if I was right, and if my research was correct, this is a situation at German-speaking universities. You have left-hand single denomination professorships for public history, and you have right-hand combined denomination. It means in most of the cases, history education with a plus public history or historical culture, or a combined denomination, history with a plus public history. If we start with the right side, you see we have 3 chairs at German-speaking universities. It's called in Germany W3. It has other names in Austria and in Switzerland. And I see 3. It's one at the Ludwig-Maximilians University in Munich. It's Professor Michele Baricelli. That's the University of Tübingen with Professor Bernd Stefan Greve, and it's the Westphalian William University. I never expressed that in English. In Münster, that's Professor Holger Thünemann. These are 3 chairs. Chairs means in German-speaking universities, that's a high-level professorship with, it is equipped with permanent assistants. So these assistants themselves don't have, unfortunately, permanent positions. But as a chair, you have always, let's say, 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 assistants on your working unit, which strive after a doctoral thesis or habilitation. And the specific thing with these assistantships is that they are not depending on third-party funds. They are financed by the universities, and you can rely on that, and you have always 1, 2, 3 persons around you which whom you can work. This is a chair. We have 3 of that, and let's make one historical remark about this. The first chair of this kind was the chair in Münster. It was founded in 2005 by Professor Bernd Schönemann. He was, as far as I can see, the first chair with historical culture included in its denomination. So it was included in his tasks, which the university expected from him to fulfill with research and teaching. And my connection to this is that I was the first postdoc assistant at this chair in Münster in 2005. So after Schönemann in Münster followed Holger Thünemann this year, as far as I can see. And the 2 chairs in Munich and Tübingen came much later. They came, I think, within the last 5 years. They were recruited. So we have a 4th chair incoming at the University of Flensburg. It was just advertised on the job recruitment platforms. So it's to be filled. And it's a combination, it's an interesting combination of historical regional research and public history. And it's a chair, so that's good for, it's important for discipline to have full professorships with assistantships, because you can educate new experts in this specific discipline for further recruitments on professorships. So you can build up a real discipline. That's why it's important to have chairs. We have more than this, we have also associate professorships. It's called in Germany W2. These are usually professorships without assistantships and with less money in the annual budget. That's a hierarchy you may like or not like. It's simply a matter of fact. So, so we have at Ruhr University Bochum, Professor Christian Bunnenberg, and this is really fresh. He made it public just today. Yeah, it went just 6 hours ago. It went through my timelines, and I'm happy to hear it because Christian Bunnenberg is a co-director of Public History Weekly, and his upgrading. It's a nice information for Public History Weekly too. So this is associate professorship for history education and public history. And the same is true for the University of Passau. It's also a new, just advertised professorship for history education and public history. And I'm really excited, and I'm really curious to see who will get this position. The question or the the problem with this double denomination is generally that it's quite demanding for every person holding such a professorship to be successful in both areas, as far as both areas have specific tasks, specific challenges, specific distinction, and so on. So the case is that most of the persons holding a chair, holding a professorship with a double denomination, decide themselves to be expert, to be a specific expert, to build on a specification in one of these areas. So the danger is that the risk is, okay, risks are only thorny opportunities, I know, but the risk is that it is only a public history label on such a professorship, but not a public history genuine research and teaching. That's a risk. I don't want to say that one of these persons forgets to teach and to research in public history, and that we understand us correctly. Great. On the other hand, we have, and that's important for a discipline, we have single denomination professorships. So we don't have the problem of, let's say, an over challenging of the persons holding these positions. So there is, as far as I can see, only one chair with permanent assistantships, and this is it's quite a new fact at University in Vienna. That's a chair having 2 permanent assistantships, a postdoc and a predoc, and both positions were advertised in summer 21, and I can tell you here and now they have just been filled with 2 very promising colleagues. I can't tell you the names now. Besides that, I can't see a chair, but I see 2 associate professorships, W2, in Germany. That's one at University of Heidelberg. That's our well-known and renowned colleague, Professor Kurt Arendes. And we have a second one that's at the so-called distant university in Hagen, in Western Germany. And this position is new and to be filled, but it's quite, the process of filling is has become quite far. I can, so yeah, I have some information I can't share here now, but I am hoping that we will have in the beginning of 22, we have a public decision for the professorship in Hagen. And then I'm really happy to say that we have 3 so-called, or let's say 3 assistant professorships. It's called in Austria and Switzerland, it's called Assistenzprofessur, and it's called in Germany, it's a specific term, and it's not a very nice term, I think. I don't like it very much. It's called a Junior Professur, W1. So we have at University of Hamburg, we have the well-known Professor Thorsten Locke. We have in Cologne, Eiko will know it very good. We have at University Cologne, Professor Christine Gundermann. And this is really a very new information I give you today. That's brand new, it's fresh. I came to know it just 1 hour before across back channel. I'm happy to say you that we have now a decision at University of Bielefeld. The new assistant professor for public history in Bielefeld is Cornelia Konchal. And she will start from next year with her job at Bielefeld. But besides that, and I was keen on finding, let's say, self-standing positions at university, and not just a practice, but people caring for public history only. Yeah. So we have at University of Bremen, Dr. Keuk, and at the University of Göttingen, Dr. Knäble, both hold a lecturer position. So this is my overview of the situation in terms of institution and persons at German-speaking universities. Are there, let's say, immediate question about this chart? If not,
I have a question, Marco, if I may.
Sure, sure.
In this chart that you're presenting, this like hierarchy, it's easy, for example, for a lecturer to become an assistant professor and then an associate professor, or it's not that easy?
It's good that you ask. It's a decisive question, and in the last month, not only last month, but let's say last years, there was a big debate and dispute in German-speaking countries about even that question. So only 9% of the staff of German, not German-speaking, German universities have a permanent position, only 9%. So it's very, very hard to get a permanent position at German universities. And that's why the competition is really sometimes cruel. You know, I'm sometimes in the situation that I have to make reviews and judgments about applications for permanent positions, and I can tell you there are so many splendid and excellent colleagues competing for one position. It's really hard to make decisions about that. So it's not easy. And you can see it. There are only 3 assistant professorships all over German-speaking countries. We are speaking about a whole population of 100 million people in the center of Europe. So only 3 assistant professorships. Yeah. So it's really hard. And I think that it must be, and we can discuss it later on. I think there will be some question about even that issue. We have to be fight for an improvement in this, let's say, employment situation. So the second question from you was, are there tenure options for these assistant professorships? And I have to tell you, regularly there aren't. And this is hard too. You have to, you don't just have to write good books and making good projects, making good presentations and so on. You have to apply for every open position you find on the employment market to collect an offer from another university. And this is, let's say, the pivotal point to get a tenure at your own university. So this was the case for Christian Bunnenberg, for example. And I think this system has been, it's broken. Yeah, it's really broken, and we have to improve the situation. It's a bit different in Switzerland and in Austria. In both German-speaking countries, there are more options to get tenured and to be, let's say, to collect the success of excellent academic work. Yeah, of course, it's mostly bound to success on the third party applications. Sure, yeah, and you can criticize that too. But there are options. So thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, then we could proceed to the next chart. So when my search was right, these are the syllabuses of public history, or let's say of familiar or of near topics at German-speaking countries. And there's a plenty of diversity, plenty of different approaches. And I try to make it short that you understand what the situation is. So if you count just the number, I think these are 4 or 5, only 9 opportunities for Germans at German-speaking universities to study public history. That's only really a few study programs, a few syllabuses, and we can discuss later on what's the reason for that. Yeah, and what are the problems about that. But just to present you the overview we have is we start with the study program in Berlin. It's the oldest one, it's the first one, it's the most famous one, and probably it's not the worst. It's for sure a good opportunity to study public history. And it is situated at the Freie University Berlin and at the Center of Contemporary Historical Research in Potsdam. It's not a joint degree, I'd say, but it's a program which is, let's say, is founded on 2 institutions. It's a 2-cycle degree system. That means it's in German, it's a konsekutiver Studiengang. That means, then I understand it correctly, that you have to be first a Master of History and then you can join the Public History Master Program. Correct me if I'm wrong. So then we have 3 study programs, and the oldest of them is the Public History program at Ruhr University Bochum. And I was lucky enough to conceptualize this study program together with Professor Goschler in 2011 and 2012. And I left then Bochum and I left the study program, but I'm happy that Christian Brunberg is now there and makes it alive and successful, and I'm really thankful for that. So it's a full master program for public history, very near to practice fields, and it's running quite successful. A new program has been founded at the University of Regensburg. It's called Public History and Cultural Dissemination. It is without, let's say, without public history professorship, and you might say don't want to be understood as very critical, but it's a study program without, let's say, public history. Public is a professional public historians. It's made mainly, I think, by regional studies in Regensburg. I think it's quite successful and it is necessary, and we can speak about what is the use and the purpose and what is the horizon of these kind of study programs. So Trier, the University of Trier hasn't been started yet. It's in preparation. And the specification is that it's about digital public history. And I think it's quite near to the colleagues at Luxembourg and the Center for Digital History and Public History there. Another program which I was involved in last years is mainly situated at the University of Education in Lucerne, Switzerland. But the joint degree in which participate a couple of Swiss universities. And it has a bit, let's say, a strange name. It's called History, Education and Dissemination of History. I don't like this title very much. It is not, it hasn't grown up on my, let's say, on my garden, in my garden, but so it is. So it's, at the end, it's about public history. Then we have in Zurich a Master of Advanced Studies for Public History, running financially very successful. I was always curious how they managed to to make that happen there, because the fees are quite high, but it runs. Yeah, it works, and I'm really impressed by this Master of Advanced Studies. And additionally, we have 3 other supplies offers. So we have at Cologne, we have not a self-standing, Eiko, you tell me when I'm wrong, we have not a self-standing study program. We have a focus area within a Master of History program. So master students can specialize themselves in public history. I like this kind of study programs very much. We can discuss it too. I'm a little bit skeptical about these, let's say, self-standing public history programs, because the question always is, how's the employment market? How can I use a public history master? And why shouldn't I use just a Master of History? Yeah, with a specialization. I like this model very much. The same is true for the University of Bremen. We remember that's Dr. Koik who's responsible there. And we have another approach at the University of Göttingen. That's a cross-sectional study over of public history, which can be used and attended by any history student running there through the beautiful, let's say partly beautiful city of Göttingen. So thank you. This is my overview. Any questions, any remarks, any, let's say, additions to my overview?
I have another question. I work mainly in Latin America and the USA, and I was wondering if you can tell us more or elaborate more about the use of the word dissemination. What does exactly do they mean by cultural dissemination and history education and dissemination of history?
Yeah, thank you, Jimena. It's again the crucial question that matter here. I hate the German term. This is it's in German we'd say it's Vermittlung. When I hear Vermittlung, I always think about a telephone office. When you connect people, that's also called Vermittlung. I don't like it very much. It's a quite ancient conceptualization of learning history. And I tried hard to translate that into English, and dissemination, maybe it's the most proper word. At the end, you can tell it education too, but it makes no sense to say that's a syllabus for history education and history education. So there is a distinction, and the thing is that they call this dissemination as it's a kind of education taking place at museums, at memorial sites, and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer.
So this I don't have more charts. We could stop the transmission of your screen and returning to the usual
okay.
So thank you. Screen.
Thank you very much, Marco. Eiko, if you would like to continue with the questions.
Yes, I can ask some question. I wrote down kind of before, and some are probably now a little bit already answered, and some new questions also popped up. But what I ask myself, as you are probably as a person are kind of taking part since many years in this problem, in this development of institutionalization of public history. As I understood right, you came from the field of didactics, right? So what would you say distinguishes the public history from the didactics? I know I saw that you kind of included this in your charts, but I'm also curious, where's the distinction between didactics and public history?
Yes, thank you. Another crucial question. If you ask for my self-conceptualization of my self-understanding, I was always a little bit between to be a modern historian and a didactician. And so my first qualifications, books, and so on were about contemporary history. But this was just the subject that I researched. I've done research about historical didactics as an object of contemporary history. I think my only way to survive was to be the assistant of Bernd Schönemann for 13 years, because he was always both a historian and a history educationalist. And I liked it very much. But it doesn't answer your question. It was just, let's say, a biographical remark. But maybe a last biographical remark. I'm quite happy having left this double bind of disciplines and have now a single denomination in Vienna, because the discourse of history education has changed a lot since the 1990s. And I wasn't really happy about the turn of history education to this post-PISA direction of testing and quantitative research and competencies and all this stuff. I didn't feel at home anymore for a longer time. So that's why I was quite happy to be able to be concentrated on this very field of historical culture, history, politics, and public history. So the differentiation is quite simply to explain. History education as an academic discipline asks for public history insofar it is a factor for history lessons at school. That's a research on, let's say, preconditions of teaching history at school. And I think this is really important, and it's necessary, and it's worthwhile, but it's really a specific perspective on public history. So, and public history itself is much more broader. It aims its questions on every cultural practice of history in present and in the past. And I think this is, by the way, that's a field, it has been neglected too much recently, that we can research about public history in a historical manner. So I think the public history of the 19th century is really a worthwhile area of public history research. And the other main research field is the practices of let's say, cultural encounters of the past in our very present. So what happens? What really happens at memorial sites, at sites of remembrance today? Do we know that? So we know a lot about these monuments, the shape and their history, and the intentions, why they are there, and the intentions why they shouldn't be anymore there, and so on. We know about this campaign of Roads Must Fall and others. But do we know exactly what really happens there? What the people learn there, what they understand there? This is the public history as a research of, and I think this is the point of, let's say, cultural anthropology today. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I would like to invite some people from the audience. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat or just jump in, open your mic and jump in. While you think about your questions, or I have two questions for you, Marco. Thinking about the explorers of the International Federation for Public History, can you tell the explorers which are your projects that which kind of projects are you working on right now?
Yeah, sure. Let's say there are a couple of ongoing projects which you will know for sure, and there is a new research focus which will be very much important for me in next years, and is already now a part of an initiative for the Austrian Excellence Initiative. So the ongoing problems at first position is Public History Weekly. I'm lucky enough to be the head of the central office of Public History Weekly, and working together with colleagues all from mostly, not all, but mostly all over the world. And that makes me happy every week, because the workflow is so that the central office and the central office colleagues are very much involved and responsibly involved in digital editing and the last editorial steps in every week. So my Wednesday evening always is full with Public History Weekly. And I'm really happy that Arthur Chapman from London joins me in that kind of position. And so he has, in November, he has started to be also the last instance of Public History Weekly before publication. So that makes me happy. A lot of contact, nice Zoom talks with colleagues from all over the world every week. That's really wonderful. And I'm especially happy to organize at the moment at the Russian Focus Month with my colleagues Andrei Volodin and Irina Savelyeva from Moscow. And I'm really happy to work together with them, and I'm really enthusiastic to read their articles and the articles of the other Russian colleagues to come to learn more about that. So this is Public History Weekly. And the second project I'm running in this kind is also based on digital public history and on a broader audience. This is the so-called Geschichtstalk. That's to explain it, to translate it, it's a history talk. It's a kind of a talk show developed by scholars together with a foundation in Germany, with the Gerda Henkel Stiftung in Düsseldorf, and we are running that little talk show since we have been running it since 4 years now, and we broadcast, let's say, 4 or 5 times a year. And I'm happy to have some news here for you too, because we relaunched this talk show, this public history talk show at the beginning of 22, because beside the Gerda Henkel Foundation and the University of Vienna, the University of Bielefeld will join the ranks of the hosts of this talk show too. This is Professor Antje Flüchter, and we will have 3 associates in the staff, new in the staff. So we will start new from next year. Antje Flüchter will be beside me, the other permanent host of this talk show. I'm happy about that. So I'm not 5 times a year in front of the camera, thanks God, only 2 or 3 times a year. That's enough for me. So there are some other projects not so important, but the most important research project is the investigation in cultural practices on places of national commemoration in Austria, and it is in a frame of a scientific self-understanding of cultural anthropology. There are some very, let's say, similar projects I initiated before. That was it has been recited in the book of Marco Zervas about the Deutsches Eck in Koblenz, and it has recited in the book of Martin Schaub about the Rödli in Switzerland. So we start new in a really broad manner, deeply rooted in digital humanities, and exploiting social media, exploiting image databases. We're making field research using camera drones, let's say all this modern stuff you can use for research in cultural practices. And so I'm really happy about that. And I'm looking forward to the field research from springtime next year.
Thank you, Marco. I have another question, but I'm happy to give my turn to Aiko if you have another question, or someone from the audience also.
I would like to ask another question, because I want to stress a little bit more this term of like digital public history. And I saw that you wrote like 2 essays on this kind of new problems and advantages towards the new situation during the Corona pandemic about digitalization. And I just would like to ask you, like, what are your experience by teaching public history during the Corona pandemic?
Thank you. Meanwhile, we are able to write our own Corona autobiography. Time is long enough. 2 years. We are reaching 2 years soon. Yeah, and I remember the first conference I had to I couldn't attend because of Corona. Was a public history conference run by Thorsten Locke and others, and I'm still sorry about that, Thorsten. If you can see that, sorry again. So but my experience is about teaching. You know, I'm a digitalist since a long time, and I have also a self-understanding to be a digital humanist since a long time. Published a lot, made a lot in this field of research and academia. So that's why I started quite enthusiastically. what means teaching in this digital distant period in March 20. And my friend and colleague Gerhard Lauer, who was the head of the Digital Humanities Lab at University of Basel, we had a lot of exchanges and discussions and so on. And so we were really ambitious. So we organized our first project seminar, our first excursion on a digital only way in the beginning of April 20. Actually, it was a seminar about diaries, about historical diaries, and it was planned to be a cooperation with the Diary Archive in Emmendingen in West Germany. So it couldn't take place in the way we planned it. So we made it digitally pure, and it was working. And you know, it was like an explorative spirit we've had, and in this spirit, we have got the inquiry from the Association of Philosophical Faculties at German-speaking universities. They are running a web platform, and they were asking us, because we were known for such kind of digital enthusiasm, to write about our experiences. And this was the origin of this double essay. This essay made some furor, you know, it created some furor. Even, let's say, a debate at the feuilleton of the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. It was crazy. Yeah, it was really crazy in the springtime of 20. Things have changed now. In this semester, I started in, let's say, in conventional presence with my students, and I love to do so. New university, new kind of students, new questions, new perspectives, and I love to meet them in person. And at the same way, I was really unhappy and a little bit depressed even after we had to return, because in Austria we have a full lockdown at the moment, to return behind the Zoom camera. My experience is it works, but there are specific problems. And at the moment, I'm thinking and writing about, let's say, a cultural anthropology of Zoom teaching, my next publication. There are some specific problems. The first problem is the specific feeling of stress we have when we are on a Zoom meeting. This stress we can reduce immediately, and to, let's say, 50% extent, if we switch off our self-view, if we stop looking at ourselves in Zoom sessions. This is easily possible with these 3 points in the right corner of your window. Just switch off your self-view. That's one thing. The other thing is, because I'm running some international multilingual projects, my experience is that the effectiveness of teaching behind cameras and distant teaching is considerably weaker than if you meet in person. You have to tell the things 3 times more, that they reach the heads and the brains of your audience. That's crazy. Even among colleagues, if you try to organize something, yeah, you have to, you can tell it on Zoom, but you have to write an email again, you have to make a cloud document, and you have another Zoom and another Zoom. And let's say in the 5th round, you have, let's say, the effectiveness if you would meet the person on one table in person. So this is a difference which I couldn't understand 400% until now. It's a fact in my mind, in my experience. It has something to do with us as humans. That's why it's an anthropological question. If someone in the audience now has a good answer for this for this effect, I'm looking for good explanations. I hope it answers your question. We could speak about this issue. We could speak about 2 hours more.
Thank you, Marco. I don't have an answer, but I have only a remark. For example, for the project I manage, this project, the Explorers, using Zoom has been great because I am able to invite people from all over the world and make connections. And I know that everybody is like has Zoom fatigue, and that has been a challenge. But for this particular project, has been great to be able to put in touch so many people from all over the world. So I don't like the pandemic, of course. I don't like to teach also by Zoom, but I think that's like kind of a silver lining, a little one, but okay.
Sure. I'm not a skepticist of digital transformation. On contrary.
Yes, I have a question more related. You at the beginning of your talk, you mentioned that you were going to talk more about public history as an academic field. But then I'm thinking about Latin America, about all the things that are happening with memory and sites of conscience and commemorations here in Latin America that have become like very politicized sites and places, and very like trigger a lot of activism. So I would like to ask you if you think, or what do you think about public historians being like activists and related to and studying and analyzing issues of social justice? Do you think that, I mean, what do you think about that?
A lot. I can tell you at first one thing, that we will organize a global public history conference in Vienna in the late springtime, early summer 2023. And the topic of this conference will exactly be this one. Political activism and public history. I think this is a really important issue. It should be discussed broadly, because on one hand, if we strive after upgrading public history to be a reputed, well-known and proudly accepted academic discipline, with many professorships, with many assistantships, yeah, then it seems to be crucial for me to make a distinction between public history as a broader field and public history as an academic field. If public historians try to be accepted as a normal kind of academic studies, public historians should deliver academe with really deep and methodological, high-ranked and cutting-edge research. And this has a backlash on your public role. If you don't behave like a researcher, like a scientist in public, and I think to be an activist is sometimes a contrary to be a scientist, not always, but sometimes, then you should not be surprised if it will be hard for you to be accepted among your academic colleagues as a normal academic. That's one hand. On the other hand, there are issues and problems we have to defend and we have to fight for. If we don't want to lose the opportunity and chance to be a scholar and academic. And this means, for example, the freedom of expression and the freedom of research. And let's say also the question of diversity in our discipline. Do we accept everybody making good research independently from his color, from his language, from his cultural background, has everybody the same chance to be successful in public history academic discipline? And if not, this is the real point to let's say to grab to grab your knife and to grab your gun. We have to fight for this. But you see, the distinction is not so easy. To be, on the one hand, really as a scientist, and to be an activist only in the case someone makes it impossible for you to be a scientist.
Okay. Yes, I agree with you that it's complicated, because I was remembering one of my professors telling me very emphatically, you are an academic, not an activist. And I was thinking that it confuses me. It's not so black and white. So thank you. Thank you, Marco. I invite again people from the audience, if you have questions, comments, critiques, any kind of remark, or Aiko, if you have another question.
I would have one more question and then I'm finished. I think about the outcome of public history as a discipline, as a study in form of students. Because once I hear the sentence from a public history professor that he sees like students of public history as self-entrepreneurs who kind of have to find their way in this neoliberal system. And I was interested, what is your position on this? What is the outcome for public history students? Are they able afterwards to find their own way in the economics, or is it more like a little bit also the question of Jimena, going into the society and wanting to change through history, through consciousness of history? I know it's a broad question, but maybe you have some ideas on this.
Yeah, some. So this is my doubt about these self-standing public history programs. What is the employment market exactly for this? Because museum curators and museum heads, they recruit their staff otherwise. They recruit historians, they recruit art historians, and so on. What is the specificity and what is the specific advantage public history master has in comparison to the other masters? That's not easy to say, and we should think about it very crucially to lead our students in a one-way traffic, you know. And that's one point. The other point is we should work hard and fight to establish a real public history academic discipline, which has a sufficient numbers of assistant positions, and which has a sufficient number of professorships, so that we open up an employment market at the universities. And if you could understand from my overview at the beginning of this interview, you could see it's slowly starting and working in Germany. We get more and more professorships, but only a few chairs. And this is decisive difference between, let's say, old disciplines like medieval studies and so on, and a new discipline. The fight always is to get full professorships with assistantships. So second answer. Third answer. It is a real advantage for doctoral students and for master students in public history to learn both, to learn how to work as an academic, to build up and create a high-level research project, and on the other hand, to acquire skills making it possible to take part in digital public history. So how to learn to run a professional social media profile, to learn to run a good podcast. Yeah, you have to learn it. A good video cast. How to learn how to organize digital publications. To learn the basic skills of digital humanities, so data analysis, traffic analysis, search engine optimizations, and so on and so on. This is, on the one hand, the big advantage of public history for master and doctoral students, but the people responsible for these syllabuses have to be able to do that themselves. And they have to provide students with all these skills. So is it the reality at every spot? I'm not sure. So, and if we do so, doctoral, let's say fresh public history doctors, PhDs, have a double career chance. They can look after postdoc positions, but there are only really a few worldwide. But they have, but only in not let's say not the diploma of public history make them more successful on the competition on the employment market. It is only the specific abilities and skills they have learned and acquired while they're doctoral and master students, which make them more competitive on the employment market. So this is the point. We have to look for certificates for digital editing, for podcast making, and all these different areas of skills we have. And if we do so, I think a master's doctoral diploma for public history is a good thing and doesn't hurt.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Aiko. You made me think about my own doctoral degree. I graduated last year in the midst of the pandemic, and I consider myself a public historian, but I had to learn all those skills on my own because my degree says history, and I was trained as a very traditional historian. So all the other things, and I didn't have the chance to get, I mean, if I wanted more, I needed to go somewhere else, but I didn't have certificates or things like that. And I think that would be like great, because then you have some other skills to offer in the job market, because I have seen in the States, at least, there's a lot of callings they want public historians, but many people don't know to do the things that you are mentioning.
So maybe this is also an approach for summer schools and so on. If we have in specific places of academic public history, a specific skill set for, let's say, podcasting, for example. I'm thinking about Thorsten in Hamburg, for example. It would be great that if you have for all doctoral students in this area the opportunity to attend their summer school and learning that. So we can, in Vienna, we could provide you with video casting and with digital editing and so on. And maybe, and we should found a more and let's say concrete network of public historical cooperation among professorships worldwide or regional to push our students forward, to get them as much to learn as possible, to acquire as much skill as possible. And if someone has let's say the the power and the instruments to make that happen, I would join that with pleasure.
Thank you. Well, one of the objectives of the Explorers is to create those kind of channels. Like if some student elsewhere from Europe hear this conversation, would know to look into the University of Vienna. I also know there's going to be a summer school in Poland, I think next year. So I hope this helps also to help information get around. Again, I will invite people from the audience to post their questions or just to jump in, to open, to have some comments also for Marco.
I think I was talking you tired.
No, I don't know, Marco, if you have like some kind of final remarks, is something like you would like to say to people starting their paths, like how to encourage them to keep going? Like I'm thinking of students that are interested, but sometimes, oh, there's a question from Andre. So forget my question and let's go to him.
Yes, thank you. Touching a little more on that subject that you discussed now, but departing from the academic perspective and going into the public perspective, because that's always where my interest lies, coming from the field of anthropology, I have the assumption, or as far as I can tell, it's very far, it's very hard, close to impossible to really make this knowledge of, in your case, public history actually public. You've mentioned museums, of course, and like historical sites and such, but what I'm wondering, also, of course, a very broad question, you mentioned podcasts already, but I'm wondering what means do you have and how effective are they in making this academic knowledge public knowledge?
Thank you, Andre. Maybe you know that I'm also trying hard and and frequently in podcasting and videocasting and so on. But the outreach is, of course, limited to a group of people which are, let's say, interested in this kind of history questions from the start on. We will not be, and it's a question I have discussed this week with colleagues from Vienna quite, let's say, intensively. We shouldn't have the idea that we can compete with these YouTube stars and podcast stars, which let's say, govern the market, which rule the market. We won't be successful. What we can do is to provide a specific audience with exemplary models of reasonable and responsible kind of videocasting and podcasting about such topics. And the basic point of transporting this kind of models and of patterns into a broader audience is, in my mind, the very conventional university teaching. Because when I give my lecture in Vienna, I have an audience of about 300 students. When I use this opportunity to explain them what is possible, what is bad, what is good, what is the ethics of public history, what are bad examples, how can we criticize them, what is the way to go, and so on. Especially if there are teacher students, we are in the middle of a, let's say, a multiplication process of knowledge into a broader audience. So I think only a few of us will always be as successful as any YouTube star, but we can try hard and at our individual position to create good examples and to teach it. But let me tell you one, Public History Weekly is not as unsuccessful as you may think. We reach out, have an outreach of an average about 70,000 unique clients a month, and about more than 4 million page views a year. So this is quite successful, but it is still the global community of public historians. I think it doesn't reach out across the invisible limit of this inner circle. 16,000 people is this circle of public historians worldwide, and we reach out to them. And the point is, we are producing patterns, and they can be taught worldwide to many, many more students. And if these students go to schools and become teacher, we are reaching out to many, many school students within the next 50, 60 years of school teaching. This is, I think, the only chance we have. It's a thick wood we have to come through, you know.
Thank you, Andre.
I'm not sure whether you are satisfied from my answer, but it's.
I am. No, actually, that was great insight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too.
We still have some more minutes if somebody has a question or a comment or a doubt or whatever. And I was going to ask another question, but you already answered it, Marco, with the answer you gave, Andre. Because I was also going to ask you about what would you tell like students that are interested in public history, like to feel encouraged and keep going. Because I have sometimes that question from my students, and sometimes they get really discouraged and say, no, then I will go and do other thing. And sometimes I don't know how to convince them to stay. But
yeah, there's another aspect. I think every student we were able to educate in this practical oriented manner I told before, and in a theoretically sufficient manner. I think theory is really, really important to understand what you are doing. I think we create seed. And this seed can be thrown in many areas of society, to the press, to TV stations, to, let's say, regional civic projects, to the school, many, many other areas too. There is the seed, and from this seed, hopefully can grow plants, can grow trees. And we have to, I think it's, let's say, I have some life experience, and one of the most important life experience is that the main thing we need is patience and trust in future.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Would you like to give like some final remarks of the session, of your presentation, like a brief conclusion?
No, thank you. I thank you very much for your patience and for your trust in this future of this presentation. It was the first good step, and I hope it was not a disappointment for you, and I could answer your questions, let's say, in a good manner.
I am very happy with this presentation. It was really engaging. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you, Aiko, also for accepting the invitation. I also want to thank everybody in the audience. And I want to take the opportunity to remind you that I know the Explorers Project does this events monthly. The next issue, it's a special edition we're going to have about spirituality and art in Colombia. It's going to be a bilingual session, so you are invited if you are interested, and I will keep posting the events we do on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. If anybody is interested in doing an event with us, please just email me or find me in Twitter or in Facebook, and I will be happy to do that with you. And if there's no more comments, I want to thank everybody. I hope to see you again soon, and I'm going to stop the recording now.